Tonight, a Baynavia. We hit 100 Ks. A new channel drops. And GT7 comes out.
As another year comes to a close, it's time for another HSGear holiday special. For those who have no clue what I'm talking about, this is basically where we look back over the course of 2022 to see where you joined our little family, what point it was where you can pinpoint that you joined the ship, maybe things that you might have missed before that, and for those of you who have been around for a lot longer in some cases, yet another year of notable moments that you've lived through, some of which you may have even forgotten, and also just in general things that we achieved, predictions that we either did or didn't meet, and of course predictions for 2023. So first of all, let's talk about those improvements. I actually predicted that we would end this year with 96,000 subs. Well, I'm glad to say not only did we surpass that, we surpassed it by 7,000, 103k, which we recently passed, so that was great. That's an actual improvement of 20,000 new people this year, which is fantastic. We started the year at 83,000, and in terms of views, that was higher than I predicted as well. Overall, that is over 2 million views more than I thought we would get. I'm going to be still conservative for the new year though. I'm going to say I reckon probably 115,000 people by the end of 2023. If we can hit 120,000, I'd be pretty happy with that, but I'm always more conservative with my estimates. And with a lot of players not playing Gran Turismo 7 as much, and in some cases at all, I don't expect the numbers to be crazy by any stretch. However, it was a fantastic increase. 16% more views overall this year than last year, 30% more watch time, which is actually really heartening for me, because it means that not only are more people watching the videos, but you're enjoying them more, which is great. And you may notice with some videos, especially Beards and Cars, that the runtime of the videos is actually shorter, because I'm trying deliberately to make them shorter. This video, for example, if you compare it to previous HSGear specials, the watch time, the overall length of this one, will be notably shorter. So now let's get into the actual highlights, and of course this will be in chronological order. Now, although these two things kind of fit into the timeline, I'm actually going to mention them outside of the timeline before we get into January, because these are two things which are more important than many of the others to me. The first one is something which I talked about last year, but I really want to bring up again, because mental health is something which I think is massively important to talk about, and mental health is something which has been an issue in the past of my family. I'm not personally diagnosed with anything, I'm not medicated for anything, but I think that mental health is something that everyone has to deal with. And for me personally, what has immensely benefited me is daily journaling. Like I said, I talked about this last year. It's something which is easy to blow off and think, oh yeah, sure, keep a diary, who cares? Trust me, it actually makes much more of a difference than you'd think. It's one of those things that actually becomes a beneficial habit if you can end up doing it without even thinking, because, well, there are a number of reasons, but to put it simply, it allows every day of your life to be a chapter that ends good, bad, or indifferent, and then the next day starts fresh. And it also, for somebody like me, who is inherently very self-negative, far more than any hater ever could be about me, it helps me to actually realise, you know what, through the course of that year, there were no way near as many bad days as I would think. Because the bad always stands out more than the good. But when you actually write it down, it becomes an indelible record that you can look back on knowing, actually, that was a much better year overall than I thought it was if I wasn't keeping a track of it. Plus, of course, you have the housekeeping benefit that if you do want to know when something happened, chances are you probably wrote it down. So I really wanted to mention that again. Secondarily to that, I've, as some of you may have seen a few weeks ago, started a new channel called Beards and Cars, and it's for those who prefer the real world stuff or would just like to maybe catch up on some episodes that they might have missed, where I'm re-uploading all of my car reviews and all of the future car reviews will be there as well. In addition to this channel, daily uploads, literally 6 o'clock every single day. There's already like 16 videos on the channel, and there's enough videos already to go until the middle of March of 2023. So a ton of content will be on that channel, and my goal for that channel is actually to hit 1,000 subs in 2023. Pretty low goal, there's already over 200 people on there, but yeah, I'd be pretty happy if we could hit 1,000 subs. But now to get into the actual chronological list. First of all, we kicked off the year, literally the 1st of January, by reviewing my Bentley. I'd bought a Bentley Flying Spur in December of 2021, reviewed it in January, didn't end up keeping the Bentley for all that long, unfortunately. Like end of January I got rid of it for electrical issues, but still, we're starting off the new year with a Bentley review as well, funnily enough. The next video, also in January, was kind of a countdown video for Gran Turismo 7's release. I called it something like Rest in Peace Gran Turismo Sport. Basically, where we looked over Gran Turismo Sport, looking forward to Gran Turismo 7. I then reviewed one of my standout cars of the year. As crazy as it sounds, the Fiat Panda 100 HP, literally a bucket list car for me. It's always been one of my favourites. That was definitely a standout moment. And for those of you who wonder why a Gran Turismo channel like me talks about beards and cars so much, it's because, quite honestly, beards and cars is what I enjoy doing the most on YouTube. So anyone who says that I do this for the views, for clickbait, for money, all you need to do is point them to beards and cars, because those videos mostly lose me money every time, because it costs me more in fuel to go and review them than I actually make from any of those videos. So that is really the videos that give me the most joy, because it's just me in my element, driving real cars, having new experiences and talking about them. So I absolutely love doing those, so it's why I like to talk about them in every roundup. Next up though, I did a retrospective video, one which I hadn't done back in 2019 for my Car of the Year award. I didn't drive that many cars, but I wanted to do that one. Then in January, I moved from the Bentley Flying Spur and then bought, of course, my Golf R32. Ended up having that one for 10 months, sold it a couple of months ago. Fantastic car, absolutely loved it. And yeah, I hope it goes to a great new home because it deserves it. Awesome car. Then we started to see a lot of Gran Turismo 7 news. One of the most notable things, interestingly one which we're still waiting to see the full fruition of, was Sophie, the, of course, advanced AI development in Gran Turismo 7. That was teased as far back as then. Like I said, that hasn't quite happened yet, but in the future we'll have to wait and see. But in general, there was just a ton of new content, trailers, teasers, promo stuff, and of course we started to really feature that. Then I reviewed two cars which were both huge standouts for me. One was my biggest disappointment of the year, unfortunately, which was the Dodge Ram SRT10. I was really looking forward to it, just didn't live up to what I was hoping for. The same day though, I also drove the Aston Martin Rapide, which is literally my second dream car, second only to the Ferrari FF, so massive moment for me again in beards and cars. Then on the 4th of March, of course, Gran Turismo 7 came out, and I did like a 45-minute kind of live stream, but it was edited to save time a little bit, of my first hour of gameplay in Gran Turismo 7. So, of course, 4th of March, one of the biggest dates of the year. I know for many of you as well. After that, I finally reviewed literally what is still to this day my favourite version of all Jag XKs. Why is that significant? Well, of all the cars I've reviewed on the channel, the Jag XK is pretty much the most viewed across all of those different reviews. I finally reviewed the XKRS, and for those who are fellow fans of the XKRS, you might want to stick around on the channel over the next probably few weeks, because instead of that Bentley competition I was going to do, it's looking very likely that the Jaguar XKRS is going to be the car that we're next doing a competition for, to win a real one for £5, so stick around for that. Then I did the exhaust upgrade on my Golf R32, the muffler delete. Never looked back on that one, it was a fantastic choice, absolutely fantastic modification. Then I actually did the first of 3 retrospective videos this year. All 3 of these don't get the views that I believe they deserve. So if you are fans of these games and maybe you missed these videos, if you want to just listen to somebody extol the virtues of a game that you may also love for about 20 minutes or so, then I'd recommend checking them out. The first one was a retrospective on Test Drive Unlimited, talking about why it meant so much to me, why I think it was such a good game. Then pretty shortly after, I did another retrospective about Driver San Francisco, another game which I know many of you love, and we'll revisit this topic again in a few points time for the third one of the year. I then did a fairly random video, but one which had been kind of stewing for me for a while. I wanted to review my Predator motorcycle helmet, something which of course I unboxed years ago on the channel, did a couple of reviews wearing it. It's a controversial helmet. Some people think it looks awesome, some people think it looks ridiculous, and most people are somewhere in between. And I wanted to review what they're actually like to use, because not many people do those videos, so I released that one as well. Then I reviewed a car which I didn't really have any expectations for, but ended up being quite a nice surprise, the Alpina D3. Basically a tuned BMW. That was a really nice standout of the year, very affordable car as well. Then in May, I bought another car, a second car for my Golf, something a bit more for fun. My first Japanese car, of course, my Evo 7. Only kept that one for 2 months. That one's actually, last I checked, still for sale on Auto Trader right now, actually. It's for like 10 grand. Didn't really work out for me, just wasn't my style. You have to rag it all the time to get the best out of it, and that's just not my kind of driving. And we'll come back to buying cars in a second, because many of you know exactly what I bought after the Evo, and it was a much better choice, but we'll get to that in a minute. Then I reviewed the Nissan 370Z. That was probably a standout for a few people, because of how popular those are on the used market. Then we had my #1 most successful Gran Turismo 7 video of the entire year, which many of you will have seen, the leaked data mining list. Over 170,000 views, and we'll come back to that later on in terms of how many of those have come true already. But yeah, that was a big standout of the year. Then in June, we saw probably one of the most significant cars added to Gran Turismo 7 in terms of the Suzuki Escudo coming back. That was just, apart from anything else, hugely significant car to see returning to the game. On the 4th of July, not intentionally, but appropriately, the 4th of July is when I bought what you will know as Abe, my Lincoln Continental. Of course, my favourite car I've ever owned, still got him now, did some heavy work on it recently, and many of you I know love the Lincoln. Check out my Instagram if you want to see more of that. Incredible car. And yeah, like I said, I didn't intend to buy it on the 4th of July. I actually ended up trading in my Evo, and I absolutely love that Lincoln. Next up though, also in July, we saw 2 other super significant cars added, the Porsche 918 Spider and the Super Silhouette Skyline. Very, very cool additions. Then I reviewed again in Beards and Cars, another car which I really wanted to talk about for a long time, the Mercedes SLK 55 AMG. Then in August, we saw another data mining video drop, the circuits that had been data mined. That ended up being a bit of a weird one, because I talked about Road Atlanta, but then it seemed like that one was cancelled. Then the person who leaked them tried to backtrack it, and now we have Road Atlanta, so that one's kind of all over the place. But yeah, that, still, it's looking good at the very least that Road Atlanta came. Then also in August, we saw the arrival of course, the McLaren MP44 and the Pontiac GTO Judge. Others too, but those are pretty big standouts. Then back to Beards and Cars, another bucket list car for me, like a top tier bucket list one for me, the Jaguar XF RS. Finally got to review that one. It was my dream Jag. Didn't quite live up to what I was expecting, but still a fantastic car. Then in August was the release of, on a slight side note, in Gran Turismo, my girlfriend's first video on the channel. She did a tune setup for a Camaro. That was a lot of fun for her to do, and it was very well received by you as well. You guys were very courteous. Then in September, we had my 6-month review of Gran Turismo 7. Also in September, to mark 100k or thereabouts, I did a review of my beard, which was a kind of a joke video that I'd always planned to do because, it's Beards and Cars. So a few comedic comments through the years had always been, but when are we getting the beard review? So as a bit of a joke, I released that video. It's got my Maserati in the thumbnail if you want to look it up. And that was just a stupid little video. Then came the third retrospective, another massively popular game if you want to check it out and have some member berries. My retrospective of Drive Club, a game which I believe was fantastic but just arrived on the scene at the wrong time. Then we had, of course, 100 subs, or 100k subs even. I did the live stream for that and unboxed my 100k plaque. so that was awesome, of course a standout of the year. Then we had a car which a lot of people were disappointed by, added to Gran Turismo. I personally loved the fact that it was added, the Volkswagen IDR. Total surprise, was not on the Datamined list. It's a pretty useless car, but still I absolutely love it. Then, in Beards and Cars again, I finally got to review the last generation of Jag XJR, the big luxury, 570 horsepower monster, so that was a standout as well. I then reviewed an early access copy of Dakar, the new desert rally game. Mixed response for me. Some things were pretty good, some things not so good. I then did my long-term review in October for Golf R32 ownership. Again, just mostly praise from me, with only a couple of things which I think could be improved about the car. I then did a video which technically we'll still see over the course of the next year. If many or any of them come true, I predicted 10 circuits which I think could arrive. I believe it was in Gran Turismo 7 specifically. It may have been just in Gran Turismo in general, but I think I said in this game, so we'll have to see if those happen. Also in October, I began my build series, working with D'Agostini to build the Ford GT40 model. I actually recently released parts, 13 to 17 I think, so I've done like 5 or 6 episodes of that now. I know some of you are enjoying that. It doesn't get a huge amount of views, but it's not really what I usually do, so that's understandable. That's a fun one to do as well. Then I had one of, I would say, probably my 3 most controversial videos of the entire year, and it was my idea for the biggest DLC patch or update that Polyphony could ever do. And my idea was to basically put all of the duplicates into one update and add them all at once. Like a 200 car update with all the Skylines, all the Evos, all the Supras, all the NSXs, all the RX-7s, and just get them all out of the way. So then, instead of having like 1 out of every 3 car packs being some kind of duplicate, we could just get them all out of the way. I was actually kind of disappointed by how many people seemed to reel against that idea, as if by reeling against the idea we weren't going to get other duplicates, but they seem to miss the fact that you're already getting that. I'm just saying, why not get it out of the way, but whatever. I guess people prefer having 1 out of every 3 cars be a duplicate. Then though, we had a couple of other really cool cars added, the Maserati Mirac, the classic Skyline GTR. In October, another car purchase for me, another change up, changing from my Golf, because of course I had the Golf R32 and the Lincoln. Then I sold the Golf. I actually sold it back to the guy who I bought it from, an R32 specialist, Ben Kayin, and then I bought, and he actually went with me, to buy my 3rd Maserati Quattroporte, which is the one that, as of right now, I've still got. My daily driver, the dark green one. Stunning car, having the exhaust worked on in the new year, so I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah, gorgeous car, absolutely love it. In November then, I reviewed a classic Jag, the Jag Mark II. Huge standout. Didn't really love the car, especially not compared to Abe, but I think, to be honest, the Lincoln is so good that I kind of feel spoiled. Like I'm basically driving the American Rolls-Royce, except it's better than a Rolls-Royce, so of course a Jag doesn't feel as good. Then though, I did a video which has pitiful views. Unfortunately, it doesn't surprise me, but it's a shame because I think more people need to see it. It was 5 reasons why I think every car fan owes it to themselves to own a classic at some point. So I released that video as well. Didn't expect it to get good views, and it hasn't. Then I had some heavy work done on the Lincoln, my Holly Sniper conversion. That was something which I was so looking forward to. I put a lot of money into doing that. It cost me about $2,000 to have that work done on the car, but the results are fantastic. No stalling anymore, more power, more torque, performance is vastly improved. It's still learning as of right now. I think it learns for months and months, especially if you're not driving the car all the time, of course. But yeah, that was a fantastic thing. Get rid of the carburetor, get the fuel injection in there. Absolute beast of a car now. Then we did the first episode of 3 so far that I've done, with the most recent one being yesterday actually, of Game vs Real, but this one specifically is in Gran Turismo 7, and we kicked off by comparing the real Maserati Gran Turismo to the one in the game. I've since done a couple of others. I did the Aston yesterday, I did a very well received one for the BMW M2 as well, the M2 competition. Then in November, we had, I would say, by far the best new circuit added of the year, Road Atlanta. massive, massive favourite circuit of mine. It's been great to see how many of you who have never driven on the track have ended up really loving it. Not everyone, of course, but many. And of course, also the Sierra RS500, the BMW M2 competition was added, so one hell of an update, maybe even the best update of the year, some might say. I wouldn't necessarily disagree. Then also in November we saw the Ferrari Vision GT unveiled, one of the Vision GTs which I think is quite easily one of the best we've had so far, design notwithstanding for some people. Then also in November, my second controversial video of the year. This one might actually be number one in terms of being the most controversial. I did a little 2-minute video about oranges, which some of you will remember, about why Gran Turismo updates are in fact not free. It was actually far, far better received than I thought it would be. But yeah, that was a fun one to do. I generated the entire video with AI created art, but it was a fun one to make. And if you haven't watched that one, check it out and tell me why you think I'm wrong. And then in December, another video, this is one of the 3 as well, which was pretty controversial. Not as much as I would have thought though. 10 things that I think Polyphony needs to learn from Gran Turismo 7. Then I did a trailer which ended up being really popular, really well received, and a full week of releasing Special Projects builds in what I call the Special Projects Car Pack 1 within Gran Turismo. And it was this idea which came to me of, why do we wait for Polyphony to add new cars at the end of every month and then have a boring time at the start of every month, when I could do what I'm already doing here and there in Special Projects to create car packs, in effect, for the community to enjoy. So now you're getting stuff at the start of the month and the end of the month. So I tried it out, the response was overwhelmingly positive, and even though the individual reviews didn't get as many views as the trailer, which isn't surprising, it was well received enough for me to have like 4 or 5 more of these each month coming up. And the January one is already set, I've already got the footage for it, I've already got all the footage for the trailer, and that one is going to be debuting relatively early in January, the first weekend I believe of January. So yeah, for those of you who enjoyed that, Special Projects Pack 2 is on its way, and yeah, that was a very fun one to do, and I'm glad that you guys enjoyed that one. Then of course, around the same time, I did what initially seemed to be kind of maybe a scam to some people, but now it's ended and you can see it isn't a scam, a PS5 competition, winning a PlayStation 5 for £2. I had to promote that one a lot, which I'm sure some people got sick of, but for those who didn't see the promos, you know, I had to treat every video as if it was somebody's first video, and for many people apparently it was. And then, yeah, recently the competition ended. Our winner was from the States. Enough of you entered for me to definitely be able to do it again, which is fantastic. And as of right now, we are still, well, I'm recording this video technically on the 29th for the 30th, so a little behind the scenes thing for you there. But as of right now, the PS5 hasn't been delivered yet, but it is on its way. So yeah, that's looking great. I actually ordered it for the winner in America, so they didn't need to wait for shipping from the UK. You know, bypasses that whole issue. So that is something which I plan to do again in future. Of course, the winner's going to be happy with that, and they should get it sometime between today and the 4th of January. So here's hoping for that one. And like I said, the next competition is looking to be for a literal car, which will be a UK only thing, but still pretty awesome. Then though, we did a video referencing the data mining again, but this one was 15 cars which have actually already been added just in 2022, already given more and more proof to that data mined list. 15 cars already. So that one's a great one to see. I think that video will continue to get more views because it's just that kind of video. Then I actually released a partner piece to my 10 things that Polyphony need to learn from, and that was 9 things which I think they did really well. Then also in December, of course, we had definitely one of the best updates of the year, some would say even the best, the 5 new cars. The Bugatti Chiron, the Alfa GT-AM, the C8 Corvette, the Celica rally car, and of course the Ferrari. If it had a circuit in there, it probably would be a perfect update. For me, it's either between that one or the Road Atlanta in November. But yeah, both fantastic updates overall, I would say. December 25th, technically, of course, Christmas Day, I actually announced the winner of the PS5 competition. That video is still up if you want to check it out. Then the 27th, so super recent now, I did my Car of the Year awards, and you know, the 10 vehicles that I believe were the best that I drove all year. Then the 28th, I actually did kind of a change of plan video, because I was originally planning to do a competition to win a real Bentley Supersports for £5. And that would have been awesome, but I had to change that because the Bentley had some battery issues, and even though they're now fixed, I still don't really feel comfortable with maybe even using a Bentley at all, you know, any Bentley, because it's kind of a time bomb car to some degree. They're amazing, but they have so many things on them that are working all the time that the risk of something breaking is quite high. So I think going for something like a Jag XKR, which is a relatively simple car in comparison but still super desirable, I think it's a better choice moving forward. And of course, besides yesterday's Game vs Real episode, that brings us up to today, which is the end of the year. Now technically I'm doing a video tomorrow anyway on the channel, but overall that is it for 2022. So it was one hell of a year. A new channel, passing 100k, buying loads of cars, my favourite car I've ever had, my girlfriend's first video on the channel. So yeah, a ton of great stuff happened in the year. And if you only take one thing away from this entire video, well, let's take away two things. The first thing that you should take away is my thanks for being a part of this community, regardless of if you joined 10 years ago or 10 minutes ago. And secondly, get yourself a journal. Seriously. Write in it every day, no matter how mundane your days are. It helps to keep things in perspective, keeps you grounded, keeps you positive, and even when things aren't as good, it helps you to keep an exact eye on your own mental health, your levels, and even if it doesn't give you any other benefit, it just acts as a really accurate way of knowing exactly what happened in your life and when. But for now, that's it, and I'll see you tomorrow, but beyond that, I'll see you in 2023. And for now, as always, thanks for watching.